Hi, I'm Al Lowe, and I'm listening to Adventure Game Hotspot.
Let's talk adventure games
Okay.
and review
Or adventure game reviews, which is kind of a
reviews.
different angle than we've done so far. But like we are a
Mhm.
sort of a press site, so
Mhm.
reviews are, part of our bread and butter. So I think it's, an topic of interest to people and probably one that isn't discussed very often. So yeah, I figured we maybe, pull the lid off that can of worms and talk about that today.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just jump into it. Like, why do we even need reviews as gamers in 2023?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for everybody, but I think there's sort of two main reasons. Like, I honestly think that the biggest benefit of reviews is just to read about adventure games, just
Mhm.
to, kind of get more into it. It's not about, you know, getting somebody's opinion on whether or not they actually want to play or buy a game, but just, yeah, you know what? I love adventure games. I was really excited about this game, whether I played it or not. And hey, there's this, really great, well written, thorough article about that game. I want
Mhm.
to read it. So I think that's sort of a big motivation for readers to read reviews and for us as a website to produce reviews. We whether we change anybody's mind about whether to buy or play a game or not, that it's almost secondary to me. It's
Mhm.
just we're here to celebrate the genre, and reviews give us a great chance to just do a really meaty, in-depth article about a whole bunch of the latest and greatest games. So that's kind of fun. But I mean, there is sort of the practical angle too. So, we can't all buy every new game on the market,
Mhm.
especially now. There's so many games. So, yeah, people will come and go, should I buy this game?
Mhm.
Should I play this game? But to that point, I think it's important for people to come with the right view of what a review is,
Mhm.
which isn't an answer of whether you should buy a game. We can't answer that.
Right.
Okay. Like I don't like as a writer, I don't know you. I don't know the other thousands of people, hopefully, reading these reviews. We can only talk about our own experience.
Mhm.
That's one part. And then the second part is that we provide enough information about the game itself that you can go, okay, you know what? Regardless of the writer's personal opinion of the game, that sounds like something that is of interest to me or isn't, or yeah, okay, that doesn't really sound like, my kind of game or whatever. So it's sort of a two-pronged thing. The reviewer's own experience and enough information for you to decide, does this sound like something that appeals to me? But it's not going to tell you
Mhm.
whether or not you should buy a game or not. Don't come looking for that because we can't answer that for you. That's for you to answer for yourself.
Kind of like buying a car. You're telling your friend, okay, yeah, I love my car. It's great. It gets 32 miles to the gallon. It's got a pretty white color. Some people be like, is white pretty? It's great. It's comfortable. Not everybody likes the same type of thing. So you kind of give examples as to what's going on in your vehicle, what's going on in the game, and the other person has to make their decision if it's something that they want to take it.
Your friend may love their car, but
Mhm.
they love it because it's
Practical.
sporty and
Yeah.
fast and low to the ground, and you're going, I got a family, man. That like no, that it may be a great car, but I need a sedan with the four doors and the child seat and the airbags and stuff like that. So yeah, they can't tell you whether something is right for you. They can only share whether what they like about it and give you, again, like I said, give you that information to decide for yourself. Like if they say, oh yes, you got to get this
Mhm.
car, just take my word for it, never mind the details, just take my word for it, it's great, you'll love it, but that doesn't help you.
Right.
Going, how, but is it for me? You haven't told me. You've told me you loved it. You haven't told me enough to know whether I would love it. So we
Uh,
try to do both things with our reviews.
yeah, I'm actually glad you said that because it brings me to my next question, and that's going to be: is there actually such a thing as an unbiased review?
Yeah, see, that's the word I think that sort of throws everybody off. The short answer is no. An unbiased review is an inherent impossibility.
Right.
Review is an opinion of something subjective. Video game, regardless of the sort of argument about whether video games are art, on the broadest level, they are art, and a review is a subjective opinion.
Collection
So
of art.
by its nature, it is biased. But I don't think that's sort of using the practical version of the word bias. To me, that kind of bias, like the kind of bias you don't want, is the sort of preconceived notions or ideas or prejudices that you bring into the experience,
Right.
which then colors the experience, and then you just reflect back in a review. A really simple example, like some people hate Myst and Myst type games, right? Just don't like anything about it. Not enough story, no characters, puzzles are too hard. There's not whatever, they hate that kind of game. So, like, were they to then review that sort of game, that would just like the game would have no chance. They would their whole experience would be colored by that bias.
Yeah.
And then all they'd be doing is reflecting that same bias. Yeah. Like I hate Myst games, and I played a Myst game and I hated it. So, so yeah, it was terrible. That is the wrong kind of bias.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that is when you're bringing your own issues into a game and not giving it a fair shake.
Right. And then you have the worst kind of bias to say you're friends with the developer, or you don't want, maybe they're sponsoring something and you don't want to disappoint them or something. And that's just wrong. That's just wrong on. And I think that actually, using an example of going off what you said, there was one review that I personally was going to do, and straight up, I knew I was going to have a bias. I don't like these type of games. Yeah. And I didn't realize when I took the code and started playing, and I told Jack, I'm like, look at, man, if I gave this, it wouldn't sound right. This isn't my style, And so I think we might give it to someone who has a better opinion on that, what the developers are trying to do than I would.
Right. Yeah. It's not about, making sure it gets a better rating or anything like that. It's just, I understand in myself that I'm just not reacting right to the kind of game that this is trying to be. And it can happen all sorts of ways. Like I just reviewed The Last Worker, which I was really looking forward to, and it was a decent game, but fairly flawed. But I was surprised at how much more action there was than I expected. Now, I'm an experienced action gamer, so I got through it and everything. It was fine. But let's say I wasn't a good action gamer, and suddenly I find myself playing a game with more action than I'm comfortable with or something. How do I, as a reviewer, then treat that fairly? Because I have to recognize in myself, I'm not good at these kinds of games. I'm not comfortable with these kinds of games, and this isn't what I expected. So I can't be sure that I'm going to give the game a fair shake. So in that sort of, like this was all hypothetical. None of that applied to me, but it could have. In fact, actually, I have to sort of take that back. We did actually start out with an alternate reviewer, and for one reason or another, that person did have to pass on it, and that's how it ended up with me. So, like, it does happen, but it's not about manipulating the system so that a game gets a better grade, or like, oh, we don't want to be too negative or whatever. No, if a game deserves it, we give it a negative grade, or we are critical. But like, a reviewer needs to have that self-awareness to go, I'm bringing something to the process that is hindering giving the review a fair shake, or giving the game a fair shake. So I need to remove myself from the process and, give somebody else a chance.
It kind of goes to the analogy that we had brought up about the car. It's like, so if you have a family, a minivan, and you have a 30-year-old single guy who, you're like, okay, a 30-year-old single guy is not going to have a proper review of a minivan.
Yeah,
and so
that's
you better
right.
give
Yeah,
it to a family, because like they'll understand what it's going for and
right.
appreciate what it's going for.
Right. So, I mean, technically, you could call all that bias, but I prefer to consider that just simple subjectivity. Like we all bring our own preferences, thoughts, beliefs, experience, and stuff, but that's all fair game because that's what a review is. That's what you are bringing to the table. So long as you're not bringing something that will unfairly cast the game in a sort of false or misleading light, then,
Right.
it's all fair game. So what instead of unbiased, which is impossible, we want to sort of bring a measure of objectivity. Now, you could call that semantics and say, oh, a review can't be 100% objective either. Right, it can't. It's the same thing. But when I say objectivity, I'm not talking about removing your personal opinions.
Yeah.
Then all you'd be doing is offering a synopsis. So it would be worthless. But you need to have that self-awareness you were talking about, saying, okay, now I know I don't, I know not everyone universally shares my tastes. Like, let's say I'm not very good at, again, no, actually, this isn't hypothetical. This is very true. I am not good at puzzles, okay? Or certain types of adventure gaming puzzles anyway. So, I tend not to mind, sort of slightly easier puzzles or more story-based puzzles or whatever. But I know that there are puzzle nuts out there and the harder the better. Like, never mind all the yakking and stuff like that. Give me tough, meaty, juicy puzzles to sink my teeth into. And that's fine. But I can't write the review from their perspective.
Right.
I can only speak for myself. But I have to know that they're out there, that my perspective isn't the only one. So objectively, I go, okay, here's my opinion, and I will present it honestly. But I also understand that there are people out there who like, XYZ kind of thing. So here is the information that you need as well. So this game had this impact on me, but it may have, a different impact on somebody else. So again, that's just part of being fair to a game.
Okay, so in all genres of games and music and all forms of media, you always have people out there who are saying that reviewers are biased. Like, how come that is then?
Well, I'm like, first of all, again, on the broadest level, we all are. This is a subjective opinion. But for the most part, I don't think people bring the wrong kind of biases into reviews. I see it far more in movies movie reviews for some reason. Maybe because so much less investment of time and effort goes into having to watch a movie. But I think anyone who takes the time to sit down and, sort of play through a 10, 15-hour game or whatever is giving that game a fair, they're playing it because they want to, and they're giving the game a fair shake. So I don't think that kind of the wrong kind of bias happens very often, but I think people just they react too emotionally when they see a review that disagrees with them, and they probably don't want to hear this, but I think that's really just a kind of insecurity. They're uncomfortable with the fact that other completely rational, reasonable people can have a completely different experience than you have yourself. Like, it's just tough for people to wrap their head around. And I think they kind of reach for reasons why that might be. Like, oh, there must be something wrong with the reviewer that they didn't have the same experience I did. So so they go, oh, you just didn't get it, or you're not good enough at it, or you're biased, and it's usually wrong, I think, but it makes them feel better to find a reason to blame it on, instead of going, what, we just have totally different opinions. And I wish more people, and believe me, this goes beyond games, our world would be a lot better off if we could learn to have conversations on completely contrasting viewpoints and stuff. But I think it's more interesting to hear from people who don't share your opinion, but some
And
people
I've been
just get
guilty of,
thrown by it.
yeah, I've been guilty of throwing that out there. It's bias, his bias.
Well,
It's not. It's kind of something that a catch-all if we
yeah,
disagree. you know.
yeah. Well, it's funny. We'll get to our top fives later, but
Mhm.
like um, one of the ones on my list, I immediately went, "Oh, so many reviewers are biased when it comes to this game."
Right. Yeah.
Well, there I am doing it, but bias does exist, so it's not like it's never true. I just like don't be quick to rush into going. They must, if they disagree with me, there must be something wrong with them,
Right.
right?
Or they're on the take.
Oh, well, that's another thing, yeah. Which, I mean, again, I can't speak for everybody, but it absolutely does not happen in my 20 years or so of experience. So not that adventure games are sort of the big bucks,
Right.
places where you might expect to see that, but like there's never been so much as a whisper of undue influence or something. So I don't think that really happens.
Now, you did mention several different times that you kept using the word objective or objectivity and all of that. So, what does it mean for a review to actually have objectivity in it? Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried to explain it sort of, which is just to offer, like, to give your honest opinion. That is the subjective part.
Mm-hmm.
But then to look outside your own experience and go, I understand that there are other types of viewpoints and people and opinions and so on and so forth that would like to be addressed as well. So you're not speaking for them, but you are speaking to them. So you understand that that there are opinions beyond your own, and just we try and make it inclusive. Like I said, give them enough information to know, like, it's not good enough to go, yeah, the puzzles are great and I love them, because like I'm going, yeah, they were really easy and I didn't need a walkthrough, so I love them, right?
But what else?
Whereas the puzzle lover out there is going, oh, that sounds good, I like puzzles too, and then they get the game and they go, the puzzles were way too easy, I didn't like those at all, because I haven't given them that information, right? So again, it's just that second part of understanding that the world doesn't end with you, and to speak to other aspects of the community too. So
another example is, like, I was just watching someone play Storyteller, like a let's play, live let's play, and this is so hard. Like, he kept saying, like, I don't like this. They were saying, they were getting like legitimately mad. And I'm thinking,
sure.
like, I just finished this game, and like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I literally had no issues with those puzzles. That goes exactly, everybody has a different way of looking at things.
Right. So that's a let's play. Imagine if that person were a reviewer and all they said was, this game is so hard, is not enjoyable. Like, and if that's all they gave, and that would be true from their perspective, that would be 100% honest and fair and true. But it doesn't help anybody else, because we don't know what their experience level is, So again, you just need to understand that you're not speaking for other people, but you are speaking to a whole bunch of diverse people that, with as much experience and opinions and attitudes and preferences and stuff like that. So you can't talk to everybody, but you try and remember that they're out there.
So let me throw another quick one at you. And we kind of mentioned this a few weeks ago when we had Shorsha on from the Adventure Game Podcast. And I asked him, so, you've become friends with some of these people. So that, how is it that you're able to be objective when you review games from, like, your developers? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, no,
I wanted to ask you that when we did that show. So what do you think?
Well, it's tough. And like, it's no coincidence that I don't do many reviews anymore. Like I should do, I wish I had time to do more, first of all, but it's kind of sort of a convenient circumstance that I can't, because like it's our policy that, like, I am the liaison with the developers, not the reviewers. We try and have that sort of separation from church and state, right? So that developer and reviewer are never communicating directly during a review process or whatever, or if there is sort of close ties outside of the game, that's out of bounds. They can't review those sorts of games. We try and maintain a certain degree of objectivity. There's that word again, so that they're not like unduly pressured to give a game a good rating or whatever. So so I just kind of I'm the middleman for the most part. So it's easier for me to talk to, and like, believe me, every developer knows, like, I am on their side when it comes to promoting their games. I am totally on their side, willing to do whatever I can to help, right up until review time. And then they're on their own. Then it's all up to the game, because I never, ever, ever, ever influence a reviewer in terms of how they rate a game. My only job is to make sure that the score sort of matches the text, so there's not sort of an imbalance there. So developers know there's no avenue there for them to even try and apply pressure. And for the writers, they have no sort of direct link that they feel like, oh no, I feel bad criticizing or whatever. So
have they?
And so long as I'm there as the buffer, it sort of it works out as best as can be. And when I do review a game, it tends to be somebody that I don't know personally. So again, there's just no, like, there are some I would never compromise my own principles for a review, but there are circumstances where it would be tougher for me to review sort of game X, because I do know that developer a little too well, and it would just feel uncomfortable for both of us. But you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah. It was kind of what you're going on a good point here. I could see.
Well, but I have spoken to developers afterwards, after I've reviewed a game. Some haven't been so happy with me.
Right.
But I remember one developer, I'm not going to mention who it is, and I gave his first game quite a low score. And I think a very fair review, but it was a low score and he can't have been happy with it. But you know what? He sort of kind of grudgingly respected it. And I think even came to sort of later appreciate the criticism, because that's the sort of thing, the constructive criticism that pushes people to do better. If we all just tell everybody, hey, everything you do is great, then it never does get better. And he's gone on to create some really, really impressive games. So, I take no credit for that. I'm just saying, I was there when, the first game wasn't so great and he wasn't so happy with me at the time. But you know what? Good things can come of, sort of principled constructive criticism too.
And this is all completely foreign to me. Like I mentioned earlier, coming from like a sports radio background, you have no friends. You have nobody that you even really like, and so now, like in the industry that we're like, I like these people. These are my people. It's got to be hard.
Well, that's partly, you said I was sort of an avatar on forums and a name on a page. And, I did keep more of a professional arm's length from like, I would have communication with developers, but not sort of, kind of a friendly relationship with many that I am doing more so now. But again, I can do that because I'm not the one that's going to be reviewing their game. So, and our policy is I never, ever, ever, ever interfere with the writer's own impression of a game when reviewing. So,
well, and you got 20 years to your credit too, where you've kind of built your reputation as being such.
Well, I'd like to think that matters, but you know what? It takes nothing to make it go up in a puff of smoke. So, like, there can never be any sense of impropriety or anything.
It takes one time. Yeah,
it does. It takes one time.
It takes one time. Okay, so speaking of one time, you mentioned of a good experience that you had giving a bad review. So, is there ever a time when somebody might have said, "Hey, what do you think we nudge that up a little bit?" Is that a thing?
Yeah, there have. Now, okay. Once for my own review. But more often it tends to be because again, I'm the liaison rather than having them come at my reviewers personally. And so it makes it easy for me to like be a buffer. It's like, like, first of all, I have no say in the matter. So, my only job is to make sure your game gets a fair shake. And so you can rant and rave as much as you want to me, or hint that your game should have gotten, a better score. But when it comes down to it, I have no control over that. So get it off your chest, but it's not going to matter. So it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened a couple times, including with, some fairly high profile developers.
Oh man, I'm gonna ask you after the show. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to know. I don't.
Yeah, like, and it's not too bad. There's never been any threats or anything else. There's never, well, you don't do this, we'll never send you our review games, or like, there's nothing like that. It's just, hey, we thought we did a much better game than this. You're not, your scores are among the lowest our games get, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's more of a questioning and a why is that, and can we do something about it or something. But anyway, and I just go, nope, sorry, it's not in my control.
Well, I've been noticing, like, more so than other games. I've been paying a lot more attention, obviously for obvious reasons, lately, that there are scores that are like more than other genres. The adventure game industry, the scores that are coming out in the reviews and all they're not necessarily like balanced across the board like some of the other genres. Is that something that's typical? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, oh, I definitely, I think that's one of the reasons why people tend to think that some reviewers probably do have a bias, because it's like, well, how can your review be so different than all these other ones, or
like Hobbs Barrow. Like Hobbs Barrow. Yeah. Our opinion on Hobbs Barrow.
Sure. Yeah. It was much lower than sort of, not, there's no such thing as a consensus, but sort of generally speaking, it got higher grades than ours did. But here's the thing. See, with pretty much, I think, every other genre, there's sort of a basic foundation of gameplay that provides the fun. Like whether you're building cities or running around shooting things or casting spells, or there's sort of a core gameplay that is fun in and of itself, which you kind of really have to screw up to do badly. Now, it does happen, but for the most part, if you do a decent job of like the sort of the core RPG elements, let's say, you're probably going to end up with a pretty decent game that most people and most reviewers are kind of generally going to like. But adventure games alone are sort of based solely on the content. Like, there's nothing sort of intrinsically fun about pointing and clicking and sweeping your cursor around the screen. So, like, there's no sort of inherent gameplay formula that goes, you know what, this will probably end up being fun even if we kind of screw it up. So adventure games are totally dependent on the quality of the story and the quality of the puzzles, and that can vary widely, and they can have a wide variance in terms of how people receive them too. We all like different kinds of stories. We all like different kinds of puzzles. So, like, the exact same game could very easily be like a 60% game to you and a 90% game to me. Neither is right or wrong, and they're both entirely valid. But because there's no middle ground of where we both agree, but you know what, the gameplay itself was fun. With adventure gamers, it's all whether the story and the puzzles worked or not. And if they do for you and don't for me, our scores are going to reflect that. And like I said, that's only applies to adventure games and not other genres. So that's why there tends to be sort of a wider range, I think.
So you said the scores are going to reflect that. And you mentioned earlier too, that like one of the parts of you being a veteran in the industry, one of your jobs is to make sure that the score correlates with the words.
Yeah.
And I know, like, when we were getting our staff together, there was a discussion, like, why are we doing scores?
Yeah.
So what did you tell us? What did you tell the rest of us?
Well, I'm torn. Okay, first of all, it's just like for any website, I think to get visibility and to be relevant on the internet, you have to have scores, or people like, unless you're a rock, paper, shotgun, you can get away without doing it. You have to have scores just to put you on the radar of most people's attention span. So it's, it's a necessary evil. But whether it's a useful evil or a useful good, I'm torn.
Yeah.
As an editor, I would love to get rid of scores. The least important part of any review by far, right? Like, you shouldn't even need a score. You should be able to read this thing and go, you know what? I bet they're giving this game a 65 or whatever, or a 90 or whatever.
Who reads the whole thing all the time?
Well, all the time, yeah. But so you're right though. Like I'm a gamer and I read other people's reviews. I tend to read more movie reviews than game reviews, just because whenever I have free time, I don't want to spend any more time with game reviews than I already am. But just I like to have scores there as a handy reference too, just because sometimes I'll skim and I'll go like, or it's just like, okay, is my assessment of what I'm reading, on jiving with what this guy is, or this guy or girl is saying? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get it. So, 60% didn't like this, got it. So I like it as a handy reference, but the only important matter is never take the score all on its own. Never just go, oh, Hobbs Barrow 60. I forget what we gave it. Bad. I should have just picked something theoretical. But
68.
Game X 65%. Okay, not worth my time. Never do that. No, the devil is in the details, right? So,
and if you got the details, in there, again, it's all based on your personality. How does that relate to you?
Yeah.
And if you can trust, the person like in your position to try to correlate those numbers based on the review itself, the objective review itself, then you can. Now, I never read so many reviews in my life than I have over the last 6 months, and now I'm finding myself reading the full reviews on other websites to see, okay, this is trying to figure everything out. And I will say I like reviews, like, or I like the numbers. I do like the numbers, because if I don't want to read everything, what do? We skim. Okay, here. Okay, let's talk about the graphics. Okay. How does a 68 pros, cons, yada yada? It does help me to be quick. I need it. I need it. And I want it.
And it's a handy reference if you're coming back to something too. It's like, oh, what did they think about Game X again? Oh yeah, they got the 60. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. Right. You don't have to read the whole thing, but it's there to go, okay, yes, good. I remember. Yeah, I got it. So yeah, I don't like the scores in some sense. I do like the scores in other senses, but it's kind of a moot point because it's a necessity.
This is a passionate conversation that so many people are constantly discussing and not necessarily like fighting. It's just a debate like type of thing. Yeah. And it's really cool that we have so many different types of personalities and everything, that we are even open to the ability to have these debates. Yeah. And that's at the end of the day, I think the best way to sum it up is we all have our own things that we like, and we all have our own things that we don't like, and we try to get the best that we can based on our experience and our personalities. And so
and for the most part
with the others,
for the most part, I find adventure gamers are pretty good at sort of accepting different viewpoints and stuff. There is still a lot of sort of knee-jerk reaction to people. You don't
adventure
like
gamers are smart people, though. Like, and I don't want to generalize entirely, but if you look at I look at the trends, I look at the demographics, and they're generally in more intelligent people. So
and they're they tend to skew a little older, a little more mature.
Sure.
They don't not quite so emotional, off the cuff, and if you don't like something I don't like, you suck, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not being called a noob for not being able to headshot a guy from a mile away.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, so okay, this was awesome. Is there anything else that you want to give a final word on this?
No, I just honestly, I think we do a pretty good job at the Hotspot. Our reviewers, it helps that most of them have been with me for sort of many years, and they understand what I expect of them, and and they do a really good job of bringing that same perspective. You know, they apply that same discipline to their own reviewing that I expect of them. So it's just like a really, really good team. But I mean, generally speaking, I think that game reviewers in general are pretty good at being fair to games. So, in fact, I did an interview a long time ago. Like, there was like a frequent criticism that mainstream reviewers hate adventure games. Like GameSpot hates adventure games, IGN hates adventure games. Now, I did like a sort of a little roundtable interview. I had somebody from Games Magazine and GameSpot and the editor-in-chief of PC Gamer, and I was like, I asked them questions like, you know, do mainstream reviewers hate adventure games and why? And they're like, no, of course we don't. And like, it was a really interesting conversation. They brought their perspectives, and most of them grew up with the classics like we did too. So, but you know, there are sort of reasons why there's that perception. I think they're, you know, maybe a little less inclined to be objective about games they clearly don't like, whereas we'll be a little bit more patient and, you know, understanding that our fans won't just like, their fans can accept, no, this is not a good game, don't bother with it. Or, yeah, this is an awesome game, this is great. Whereas ours expect a little bit more. But yeah, anyway, I think for the most part, you know, game reviewers do a pretty good job of being objective and balanced, even towards our little old adventure games.
So this is a great subject, and I think we're going to put the cherry on top here by finalizing everything by doing our top 5.
That's right.
Again, like I mentioned, we're going to do things that we disagreed with the reviews in the past, movies, games, and I actually might bring up a band in general. I'm going to break the rules that Jack and I came up with prior. Let's go and jump into that. Okay, man, this whole episode's got me like a yo-yo way up here, right?
Yeah.
I was so stinking excited. I might have like burned up all my adrenaline at the top talking about the AGH con, and then you kind of shifted into second gear. We'll call it second gear. We cruised a little bit talking about maybe a kind of a controversial subject.
A little bit, yeah. Or an emotional topic anyway.
An emotional. That's a good one. So now let's kick it in the driveway now with a little bit of fun on the way out. I was trying to get my adrenaline back up here again.
Okay, good.
So we're going to talk about games. So you've been talking a little bit. I've been feeding you questions. You've been going now. And
yes,
so
please do. Yeah, I got to rest up here.
I think I'm going to go first. You gave me a chance to breathe, and I'm going to give you so. I think the first one, speaking of, this is going to be not a movie, but a television show.
Okay.
And I'll kind of give you my preface, my rules as to what I'm looking at here. I'm going to go with maybe a show and movie series or something as a whole. You know, there's always going to be one good one great one.
Yeah, sure.
Then it kind of fizzles on. So I think as a whole is what I'm going to
okay.
choose. But I think what a lot of people absolutely love is The Mandalorian. Like they love The Mandalorian. And I'm going to disagree. That started out so strong. The Mandalorian, the first season started out so strong. Half the first season started out really, really strong, and it fizzled down the end. And now we're in season 3, and season 2 just wasn't good in my opinion. Season 3 is just, I feel like I have to watch it now as a completionist. They're clamoring over it all the time, and I just disagree. It's just kind of there for me, The Mandalorian. So that's my first pick. What do you think?
Well, maybe you kind of answered that, but what is it that isn't working for you that seems to, you know, give us your review, your mini review.
Yeah, okay. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. So okay, I think that as it progresses, they're just trying to stretch too much out of too little. So like at the beginning, everything's fresh and new. They're introducing the characters. It felt right. But then as like the first season progressed, like I think it would have been better with even less episodes. Yeah. Give more per episode. And then the second season, it felt like it was a big advertisement for some of the other things, like Book of Boba Fett and all of those type of things. It's a lot of flash and not a whole lot of substance. The story, which was so great at the beginning, the way that they were going over a Star Wars show, it felt rustic, kind of like the old Star Wars movies and everything. But again, you kind of lost that old time feel, that old spaghetti Western feel.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of, it's just kind of fizzling right out.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting. Yeah. I enjoy the show. Well, like, I don't love it. I don't, it's not destination viewing, or usually I'm going, oh yeah, right. I forgot about it. This week's episode was out.
But first season was for us destination viewing. Like it definitely was. That was our time. My wife and I, we were there. And so,
all right.
Story's just dying.
Yeah. So my first one is sort of, I think, a really interesting example of bias. Like, I'm going to use myself as exhibit A for bringing sort of personal bias into an experience. I find anything to do with organized crime and the mafia and the mob extremely distasteful, right? There's something about it that doesn't, like, I'm not offended by it, and I don't care if it's gruesome or gory or anything. Like, none of that bothers me. It's just something about that I find so unpleasant that I don't enjoy it. So, like, I find all of the Godfather movies, and by extension, let's say Scarface and Casino and Goodfellas, none of those movies I like nearly as much as, like, almost everyone else on the planet. Right? So, but I'm not in any way saying they're poor movies. It's just, there's that one thing that I recognize about myself that I'm bringing to the experience that makes me unable to. I do think they're a little bit overrated, like, for real. Yeah. But I understand that most of that is what I'm bringing to it. So yeah, I can't find it in me to really, and I've watched all of those movies like 4 or 5 times, I'm sure, going, this is the time when it hits, this is when I go, okay, now I get it. Now I embrace it and everything is wonderful. Nope. Never happened. So.
I mean, again, that just goes on like what you enjoy, the things, like, you're not feeling it. I enjoyed Casino. I can't think of any other mobster movie where I liked.
Oh, really?
Casino was, I had an affinity for it somehow, but nothing else is all that enjoyable for me.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, there I thought I was bringing up something very controversial, and you go and agree with me.
No, but you and I, we end up having a lot of, we're different personalities. However, we end up agreeing a lot on things that entertains us.
I picked one that I think is sure that I'm sure we'll disagree about. But I'll save that for a later.
Just don't say Broken Sword, you jerk. I'll give you the backhand of truth.
No.
Okay, so let's just get the game out of the way. So, Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness.
Okay.
I think it was like the 5th or the 6th game that came out, but everybody disliked it. They thought they were such big fans of the series. All the other games were well received and everything, but Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness was it was not reviewed well. It was in like the 60s. And you mentioned, you bringing your bias in. And yeah, I brought my bias into that game. I loved that series so much. I loved the stories. That was probably going to like it no matter what. And that's kind of the way I feel. I know what people were upset about. The controls weren't very good. It felt kind of pushy and everything. But still, it was a great story, like a great story with a lot of other flaws on it. But to me, I would have put it much, much higher in my own personal opinion.
So, okay. Yeah. So fair enough. All right. Since you did a game, I will do a game. I did mostly movies, but I did have a couple games here.
Yep.
I'm going to do the Professor Layton series. Like, almost universally.
Careful now. That's an adventure game.
Yeah, I know. Almost universally revered by reviewers and most gamers alike, but and tons to recommend. Gorgeous games and sort of really well designed, but to me, the puzzles, the gameplay is so completely divorced from the story that I find they conflict with each other rather than complement each other. And I just like, I just feel like I'm constantly bumping into a wall every time I play it. Like, I get a little bit of a story and I go, oh, this is getting good. Boom. And then I'm like into a puzzle that has nothing to do with anything. And then, I get a few puzzles in a row. I go, oh, okay, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of digging these puzzles. And then there's like the long cutscene or whatever. No, just come on, just get to the next puzzle, man. I was starting to like it, so there's always this sort of, push and pull, tug of war going on. And the game never feels like it knows what it wants to be. And that's how my experience is. And so again, I understand that like so many good parts about it, but I would not rate them nearly as highly as a lot of other reviewers.
Professor Layton. Okay. Okay. So this one, I'm curious what you're going to think about this one. Okay. You are a superhero fan.
I am.
So let's go straight to the top where so many people disliked Daredevil.
Oh, Ben Affleck's? Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh, did you?
I loved it. I thought it was so freaking cool. I mean, I think that was the best way of describing it. It was cool, especially I was like 18 or I don't know, around that
the right age.
When it was the right age. But still to this day, if it's on like something like if I'm going past like stars or something and it's on, I'm probably going to devote 15 to 20 minutes and watching, even though I've seen it probably 20 or 30 times. Was the acting bad? Yeah, probably. The suit was incredible. Like the world building was good. The lines were corny, but I loved it. It's a superhero movie. And it was before there was just so many superhero movies to where it's a whole lot easier to kind of shake them off. But Daredevil was one of those that I just loved. Where are you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't love it, but I liked it well. And I bought it, of course. I've seen it a bazillion times, like most other superhero movies. But and you're right, the suit was, and Daredevil himself is just an amazing superhero.
My favorite.
Like the character is so cool. A blind lawyer who, sneaks around in Hell's Kitchen. It's just like an amazing character.
Yeah.
So I didn't think they leaned into the darkness as much as like darkness for a blind guy.
Pun intended.
No, yeah, it really wasn't. Amazingly, it wasn't this time. But like, it's like really sort of dingy, dark, grody part of the city that he lives in. I didn't think they leaned into that as much. But yeah, it was kind of silly fun. So, and it's Daredevil. How can you
Side question, real quick. The Netflix series, yay or nay?
Not nearly as much as most people.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much, dude.
I liked Matt Murdock.
Sure.
But one of my issues is he doesn't spend nearly enough time as Daredevil. He spends most of his time trying not to be Daredevil. And then like one of the seasons, someone else is Daredevil most of the season. I'm just going, when is he going to be Daredevil?
It makes it special when he is in the suit.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the reboot on Disney because Okay. Since you did, I am apparently following your lead. I'm not usually a follower like this, but you've given me such a good runway here. I will do the one I think we're going to disagree on, which is the Batman, the latest Batman movie, the younger movie. Am I correct in understanding that you quite liked it? I believe you said so at one point.
No, it's just kind of there. It was too long, a little too much. All
right. So we're not going to disagree all that much. But yeah, I didn't like it. Well, no, this is true. I didn't like it at all.
So I wouldn't go that far at all.
I enjoyed myself. Like buy a new sort of high level superhero movie, right away. This is the first one I seriously contemplated not even bothering. Just like I love the idea of focusing on him as a detective rather than a superhero. Like, great, okay, yes, we haven't done that. Let's really lean into that. But he was a horrible detective. Like he missed clue after clue, and he got things wrong.
He's a young Batman, though.
He was awful as a
detective. He was just getting started, though. Like he was
Yeah,
very
I
good at
know,
it.
but he still should have been better at that. And it was just like it was too darn dark and broody. Like I get that it's Batman and he
Mhm.
lives in a cave and stuff like that, but enough is enough. At some point you got to be a human being too, and not just sort of a walking emo guy in a costume.
And that's probably a good description. He was a little emo.
Oh,
I did like the gritty and dirtiness of it. Like
yeah.
I felt like they kind of leaned into let's try to make this rated R, which is something that I kind of always wanted in a Batman movie. They've always kind of walked that line of, okay, we still want to be able to get the kids in there, but it was they didn't want to pass that line too far in. But this one was like, I'm going to punch you in your face 30 times and turn your nose inside out, which like
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't necessarily good, but it was different and interesting in a Marvel or a superhero world where
Right.
you don't really get that too
Yeah.
much outside of like Punisher
Yeah, it's true.
or
Yeah,
something.
that's right.
And I think that's like the best way I could describe it. It's way too
Yeah.
long, just way too long.
Yeah, well, I certainly
Yeah.
felt that, but it could have been half an hour shorter, and I'd still think it was too long. But yeah, no, it just did not work for me at all. This particular one, I love Batman as a character,
Mm-hmm.
and again, like I said, I didn't mind the premise at all. It just
Yeah.
did not work for me. So
What do you think
yeah,
of
my
the
rating would
cast?
have been much lower if I'd been reviewing that game.
What do you think of
Or
the cast?
what's that?
The cast of that. So, like, do you think they cast well?
You know what? I don't
You didn't feel it.
remember it well enough to really talk about it, but
Okay.
I'm sure they were probably fine. I don't know.
That's a non-objective question or a good answer. Like, a non-biased question and answer. Okay. Aerosmith band as a whole. Yeah.
What, you love them more
No,
than
I
everybody else?
I
No,
I don't rate them as high as many
really.
others. My mom, who watches every episode and listens to everything that we put out, she will be calling me when we put this out. My wife will be upset at me. Um, they're just so top heavy. Like Aerosmith is so top heavy. The songs are either great or really, really bad, and not a lot of good in between. And I know that's not a popular opinion. That's totally just my thoughts. And my parents just beat it into me as a child. And most of the things that they listen to all the time I enjoyed now as an adult, but that's just one that never resonated with me.
All right. Well, your mom and I agreed on our fondness for John Mellencamp, so we can add Aerosmith to
Aerosmith.
that
Oh boy.
ledger.
Yeah.
Because but like I thought you said something controversial and then you reeled it mostly back in, like saying it's top heavy and
Right.
like they're either really great or really not. Like to me, that's not very controversial because I own about, I don't know, 8 or 9 Aerosmith albums.
Yeah.
And I never listen to any of them except for the greatest hits. Right? Because yes, their great stuff is so good that you love it. But yeah, the rest is kind of I could take it or leave it.
But you try to think too about some of the great bands, and I'm talking about the great bands of history. There's so many of and again, my opinion, so many great bands in history. They're just put out bangers and bangers and bangers.
Yeah,
There's
that's
always
true.
going to be like 4 tracks out of an album or something that's just filler or just didn't quite hit.
Okay.
But some of the greats, like Aerosmith is considered a great. They're just hitting all the time. Like how many bad songs did the Beatles put out?
Oh,
Like,
I don't know.
like how many bad songs does Pink Floyd put out?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, again, my opinion, I can't find too many. I don't want to go into another one because that will really offend people if I say something else. But yeah. So.
Okay. All right. You let your line out a little bit farther there again.
Okay.
I thought you were reeling it too far back in.
Hopefully I get a big fish to bite. Come at me, guys.
All right. Okay. I didn't know you were going to cheat.
Yep.
Usually it's me that cheats on the rules. So, man, this is the one time I can't follow as I didn't have a band to go with it. So I'll stick with movies and I'm going to go with, actually, I should pick something that is underrated because it's so easy to punch down, but I can't resist. I dislike this movie so much that I have to mention it, which is Titanic.
Uh,
I just, I don't know. I do not
Yeah.
understand its appeal at all. Now, like James Cameron did great stuff with the boat sinking, even though apparently he got some of the facts wrong that we didn't know about until after the fact. But I just like it's a long movie.
long
Like
movie.
the entire first half of the movie is an already way too long bad romance movie, if you ask me. It's like sort of an undeserved romance between two people I could not care less about. And the
Come
whole
together
thing is
over spitting off of a boat.
yeah.
How
And the
did I
whole
meet
thing
your
is
mother? We spit off of a boat and we just fell in
yeah,
love.
come on. Yeah, okay. A young romance, whatever. You're not still pining decades after the fact over this guy you knew for anyway.
Yeah.
But but here's the thing. But even in the second half,
Mhm.
this bothers me so much. I mean, how many people died in the Titanic? Like 1,600 or something. I
Many.
might be
I
getting
think it's
it.
like 1400,
14,
14
okay, yeah,
something. Yeah.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
People died.
like in the movie,
Mhm.
like literally almost everybody we
Yeah.
spend any time with lives. Well, how is that Titanic?
Not
That is
Jack.
not right.
Not Jack.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. We
Oh,
always get the short end of it. Us Jacks always get the short end of it.
I just thought about that. Oh man.
But yeah, no, I don't know. The whole focus seemed like the romance thing seemed she is such a incredibly powerful story based on a real event, and they just cheesed it up with this cornball romance, and then almost everybody lived. Anybody who died was mostly just a no name except for the one key person. But I don't know. I have no idea what people see in that movie.
That's I enjoyed the movie. I'll say I enjoyed it. But I agree the things that I don't necessarily like about it is it's just a fling. It
Yeah,
was an infatuation of a different type of people. You lived it,
very.
you got to live a different life and see the different side. That's what you loved. And for you to be 90 years old and throw a flawless jewel that's worth tens of millions of dollars into
Exactly.
the sea that people are having whole expeditions out to find, that's a dick move. Like
Seriously, Dick.
these people are on this boat looking for this thing, and
Yeah.
like, oh, and not a throw. It's like, like, oh,
No.
you jerk.
Even if it was like monetarily worthless, it's such an amazing piece of history that oh yeah, I'd totally forgotten about that. Yeah. Ooh.
I get the symbolism and the closure
Yeah,
that they're trying
sure.
to
Yeah.
put into it all, but it wasn't necessary.
No.
Okay. I think I'm on my last one, right?
I think we're on the
Is that
last
it?
one. Yeah.
Oh, I put two here in case you stole one of mine, and I'm having a hard time
Yeah,
choosing
take
what it
two.
is. No, no,
You only
no,
got two, take them both.
no. I'm gonna go with Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Oh.
Yeah, same reason as Mandalorian TV show. Um, the first was really cool. They introduced us to something that was really neat. The characters, the cast, the writing, the dialogue, the sets, and everything. It was just really cool. It had so many quotable things. And then it's just they rested on laurels. It was the same thing. They were striving after that same feeling for all of them, and everything was different. Like they tried to get the same feeling in all of these different settings, and the characters did not change in any way. And it just started falling to where it felt like a chore that you had to watch just because you'd seen the first three of them. And
Yeah.
yeah, then they started mixing things together to kind of make some of the first movies work with the later stories, and it's just
Yeah.
it's a cash grab after a certain while and just tainted the whole series.
Yeah. Now you are mostly disagreeing
Mhm.
with like the box office, basically, because
Mhm.
that series was not really reviewed all that highly.
Oh, really?
Even
Okay.
the first one was like surprised me by how sort of I'm not even sure it got a fresh on Rotten Tomatoes kind of thing. But
Really?
yeah, and
I
then
guess I
just
just
like
assumed. Hmm.
yeah, because it's incredibly popular with sort of the masses. But
Mhm.
yeah, review wise, I think more reviewers than you think thought the same thing as you, or at least
Gotcha.
ended up at the same endpoint, whether for the same reason.
That's why you're the editor-in-chief, Jack.
Well, there's got to be some reason. Okay. It's okay. I was also debating between two. I'm not going to focus on this one because I want to give the spotlight to the one I'm going to pick. But I also was debating a Johnny Depp movie, which was The Lone Ranger, The Lone Ranger. Now that got like horrible reviews. But I liked it. I thought it was silly fun. Like I thought Depp was fun. It's sort of him doing the indigenous character of Tonto or whatever was, considered a no, and whatever. I didn't care. I still thought it was kind of a fun movie, and it was sort of nice to see him do Depp do sort of a weird role, but not Jack Sparrow kind of thing. So anyway, but that's not the one I'm picking.
Okay.
Yeah, I offered you two, and
you're good.
I'm kind of doing my 1.5. I probably shouldn't pick this movie because there's probably a whole bunch of people going, I never even heard of this movie, let alone seen it. But it's called The Burbs, starring Tom Hanks.
Back when he was a comedian.
Yes. And I loved it. It's this is, I don't know.
Did it get bad reviews?
What's that?
Did it get bad reviews?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Not in the tank, but
right.
Again, not I looked it up, not fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, what is the matter with these people? And I really like Tom Hanks as a funny guy.
Yeah, no, he's funny.
And he does sort of the controlled, unhinged person so well. And when he starts to lose his cool, I just find him so hilarious. And Bruce Dern is in it. Absolutely hilarious supporting role. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, make a point of seeing it because it's just so funny. It's about a quirky little cul-de-sac neighborhood who wonders if the next door neighbors are these crazy people that are chopping people up in the basement and stuff like that. It's just there's a whole are they or aren't they kind of thing, but just the fun is in the interaction of the characters, and it's just such a fun movie. And I was flabbergasted when I saw that it had mostly negative reviews. I'm what is the matter with this? Was the one man. I went, those people were biased.
I have not thought of that movie since I was a young child. I'm talking I seen it a bunch when I was younger. I think my parents had the VHS, and whenever we'd have slimmer parties, like with my friends that come over, we'd plop that in, and I gotta watch that again.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Remind me, were they chopping people up? I think they were, right?
I can't tell you that. No. Because I'm encouraging people to seek it out.
So. Okay. Yeah.
But, yes. I also was very young when that came out.
Well, I don't know. We might have had it for a while. I don't really remember. But I remember being a boy doing the having slimmer parties with that. I remember being a little creeped out the first time as a child too.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to have that angle to it, but
yeah,
it's just such a fun movie, and I love Tom Hanks as a funny guy. So
Corey Feldman in it too, right?
Who?
Corey Feldman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait. Yes. Yeah, I had to do which Corey is which.
The kid from the
Yes. Yeah. No. You're right. It was Corey Feldman.
Okay, there you go, guys. So yeah, we packed a lot into this episode.
We did. Yes.
It's a little bit long, and I hope you made it to the end because we just had a whole lot of fun with these top 5 and
sure did
in general. And so what do we have going on this week? Coming up, and I am going to be putting this out probably tomorrow. We're recording this on Saturday, and so what do we got going up for the upcoming week in Adventure Game Hotspot?
Well, you know what? I haven't really given too much thought beyond Monday because that's when we're going to do our big convention, and we've already sort of leaked the announcement on social media, so it's not a secret, but we haven't actually officially announced it on the site, so that's when we're going to be posting our announcement article on the sites, and I'm going to leave that up for a few days. It's so important that I don't want to quickly dismiss it out of the way for a review of Game X, even though our reviews are so objective and wonderful. Well, so that's kind of the focus. I haven't really thought too much beyond that yet.
Gotcha. So we might have something else fun coming up. I know Robert Holmes came out and said something today, made a video, and gave us a nice little shout out.
Yay, Robert. Yeah.
For a
His
couple minutes.
his Kickstarter needs a plug. And yes, we do have
Yeah.
an interview coming up, and I'm not going to say anything more about that
Right.
yet, but it's coming.
He did, but we
Did
won't.
he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, because we
Okay.
don't know when exactly we're gonna put it out.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I wasn't sure it was going to be this week or when. So
Yeah. So, real quick, you got your ear to the floor here. So, what's going on in the adventure game industry recently and upcoming?
Oh, we're going to do the opening segment at the end?
We're going to opening segment. What can we expect in adventure games coming up?
Yeah, well, coming up?
Or over the past, some of the news that's been happening.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, kind of an interesting, content-wise. We did our monthly video preview. This is April, right? Barely even know what month it is anymore. It's looking like a really impressive month, like deep, not necessarily sort of high profile games, but really deep with really interesting assortment of games, sort of highlighted by the new Sherlock Holmes remake of Awakened. And of course, I did my review of The Last Worker. So my very first one for Adventure Game Hotspot. Yeah.
All right.
I figured it was high time I got on the board. So I've written dozens and dozens of announcements, but that was my first review. And we did a little game roundup from, speaking of conventions, from the WASD. Am I the only one who pronounces that WASD? Because I always pronounce it as a word.
No, I do WASD.
Oh, okay. WASD convention from London. So not sort of really in depth, but we took a quick look at Wajidai's upcoming Old Skies, along with the game Wajidai is publishing, a narrative RPG called Nighthawks, and then a sort of adventure game / rhythm hybrid from Inkle, who did Overboard and 80 Days and something else I'm forgetting, and I'm going to kick myself in a minute. Anyway, their game's called The Highland Song. So we took a look at those upcoming games in our roundup. Decent. Speaking of rhythm, seems to be all the rage this week, because Road 96 Mile Zero, a prequel to the original Road, but it's got sort of a real interjection of rhythm type mini games as well. So
so did the last one.
Did it?
Yeah.
Did you play it? I don't remember.
I've been reading about it when we did the searching about the research when we did the 33 games.
All right, I'll take your word. Yeah. I'm not so sure you're right about that.
Okay, well, I know. I mean, I just did a little research, and I might be confusing it with the upcoming.
Yeah. I think the original one was mainly just to sort of choice-driven, sort of choose your own adventure type game. But anyway, another game came out, an indigenous developed cyber noir game called Hill Agency. Purity Decay came out. That looked pretty interesting, and all things old or new again. Game Boy is having its day.
Oh man,
like so many more new sort of Game Boy inspired games are coming out, including one this week called Melon Journey: Bittersweet Memories, which looks really, really cute and fun if you're into the whole nostalgia thing. So that came out. Some quick news too. New adventure game from Cosmic Void, who did the Corruption Within, announced their next one. Really interesting, like much different than their last couple of games, called Twilight Oracle, and they're going to be having a Kickstarter for it later this month. So keep your eye out for that.
Incredible look to it. I love the color palettes that they use.
It's really colorful and fun. And I played the demo, so it looks like a good time. There's a game called Windy Meadow, which is a quote unquote companion story for Road Warden. Again, sort of a much different game than the last one. Still very it's very much a visual novel, but it looks like an adventure game. So you're mostly just choosing dialogue choices and stuff like that, but it plays out like a full-fledged adventure. And just a quick bit of good news: The Adventures of Brian Scott succeeded on its Kickstarter. Not just the base goal, but the all-important first or second stretch goal, which gives the English voice acting, which means we get Rolf Saxon, the voice of George Stobart in the Broken Sword games, and
I just
Hazel
called him Dolph
Ellerby.
again.
It was Nico in the first Broken Sword. So what's that?
Yeah. I said I just called him Dolph again. Why do I keep doing that? I
I have
get
no
Dolph
idea.
Lundgren in my head. Oh,
You
man.
have Dolph Lundgren on your
Sorry,
head.
Rolf.
Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of the week that was. Lots more happened too, of course. That got to give people a reason to head over to adventuregamehotspot.com to check out the rest.
Yeah, and that's where Jack's at all the time. AdventureGameHotspot.com. We'll have all of the things that we're talking about. Anything that's remotely relevant regarding adventure games will be over there. If you want to talk with us, go to any social media, and all you have to do is just search Adventure Game Hotspot. We have our YouTube channel, also known as Adventure Game Hotspot. We have two. We have one where we have like opinions and those type of things, and then one where we have like trailers and some of those as well. And we appreciate all of the follows and the subscribes on those. And then if you want to listen to our past podcasts, you can go anywhere where you consume your podcasts, and this one will be out shortly. And so, Jack, anything you want to say on the way out?
Just to remind people, April 20th and 21st, 2024 Adventure Game Hotspot Convention. Yes, we want you there, so we're looking forward to it.
We want to see you. Come say hi. Come say hi to Jack and I. We're certainly looking forward to seeing everybody. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for being our friends. Thank you so much for being good people.
Absolutely.
And Jack and I, we're signing off. See you guys in the next episode. Take care.
Long.